Thanks for tuning back in. I'm Tommy Campbell, still bald, still in my basement, and still certain that if you're sending money to a multimillionaire with 100 criminal counts across 4 cases, you need help. Defeated former President Donald Trump has been indicted, with the RICO Act central to the charges, and this makes it official that Trump has now one more indictment than he has marriages. Gotta say, for a place with 24 gardeners maintaining the fairways, you'd think Trump would ask them to keep Ivana's grave from looking like an inner-city dog park. I know Trump has a history of hiding the women in his life, but this one's dead. You don't need to give her grave a comb-over. If and when he is found guilty of being behind the racketeering conspiracy to defraud and steal the presidential win from Joe Biden, Trump could be in prison for a very long time. Trump went from falsely accusing Fani Willis of sleeping with a gang member to increasing his odds of getting gangbanged. Sorry, not sorry. Trump's going to have to work with Rudy to start figuring out ways to MacGyver ketchup and hair dye into lube. I'll be having a laugh ripping through the indictment, talking RICO, Ruby Freeman, Giuliani, Trump's reaction, and more. But first, this.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. And John Gotti, okay, can you imagine RICO, okay, violations? John Gotti never even had 4 indictments at once. There's no mob boss, let alone they do this to President Trump.
Gotta love the Paul Stanley makeup trailer explosion survivor in a blaze of glory Bon Jovi wig, wagging her botched fish lips to compare Trump's indictments to John Gotti and clearly saying her party boyfriend's father is a bigger criminal than an infamous mob boss. It is pouring MAGA tears. The locker-up crowd is watching their Mango Mussolini take his fake bone spurs closer to prison, so have a laugh. Join the good people in the comments as I give my take on the latest and stupid and more.
I make decisions in this office based on the facts and the law. The law is completely nonpartisan. That's how decisions are made in every case. To date, this office has indicted, since I've been sitting as the district attorney, over 12,000 cases. This is the 11th RICO indictment. We followed the same process. We look at the facts, we look at the law, and we bring charges.
I wouldn't mess with this woman. She's a case-closed bad mother, and Trump can't even close an umbrella. I've read all 97 pages, so you don't have to, but I encourage all to read it through. It's not as fun as the Mar-a-Lago drain-the-pool bumbling crime caper, but I assure you, anyone that has read this or any of the indictments knows that it's not a witch hunt. The indictment kicks off with an introduction that hits harder than a double hamburger smacking a tacky gold wall. Defendant Donald John Trump lost the United States presidential election held on November 3, 2020. One of the states he lost was Georgia. Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. That conspiracy contained a common plan and purpose to commit 2 or more acts of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states. The defendants include many familiar faces, including Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, plus several new players, and every co-defendant is another that prosecutors could persuade into testifying against the others. Nobody wants to go to prison, and they may have all lied for their sweet potato-headed dingleberry until now, but I don't think they will forever. Trump went nuclear on Truth Social, sending a tiny toad mushroom cloud of orange spray down and ketchup over Bedminster with a bonkers press release and a series of posts claiming that the witch hunt continues, 19 people were indicated, called the DA corrupt, the charges rigged, and questioned why this wasn't done 2.5 years ago, and suggests it's happening now to thwart his campaign. For starters, major investigations take time, especially ones involving a former president. The indictment details all of their communication as they worked as a group, placing calls, leaving voicemails, and sending texts. Plus, there's Trump's and others' tweets and public statements. Trump followed up his witch hunt post on Truth Social with another post saying he's now going to release all the evidence that exonerates him with an irrefutable report on election fraud with a major news conference on Monday at 11 a.m. If he's kept this evidence under his hot diaper for 2.5 years, shouldn't we be asking him why he's waited so long to show us the proof? Has he been on hold with Mike Lindell and his crew of Best Buy rejects since 2020? Mike, are you there? Pick up the phone. Got a lot to talk about. Thank you. I see every tip that comes through, from pennies to dollars. They are hugely appreciated and help make this show possible. If you love what I do here and you can afford to help out, throw me a buck with the PayPal link in the pinned comment or drop me a super thanks. Check out Ron DeSantis in Iowa, just crushing it wherever he goes. This guy rides on his Yale baseball pass and he can't even come close to winning a Pokemon. If you look at the multiple instances that actually occurred and the details in the indictment, the only election fraud that took place was by MAGA. Members of the enterprise, including several of defendants, corruptly conspired in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to unlawfully access secure voting equipment and voter data. In Georgia, members of the enterprise stole data, including ballot images, voting equipment software, and personal voter information. The stolen data was then distributed to other members of the enterprise, including members in other states. They were making false documents with false statements with the intent to defraud. The RICO Act was passed to battle organized crime and has been used for gangs, Ponzi schemes, banking, market manipulation, and more. You've seen the RICO Act come up in many films involving organized crime. Even one I had a small speaking part in, The Dark Knight, when DA Harvey Dent uses RICO to jail half the criminals in Gotham. Georgia's RICO law is different. It does not require criminal enterprises to be long-running. Defendants who are found guilty of Georgia RICO charges face between 5 and 20 years in prison, and while federal law has the same maximum, it does not have a minimum. What's really important to note is that the criminal enterprise doesn't have to succeed for people to be charged under RICO. So even though the election was not overturned, the criminal steps they took are enough to send them to jail. Trump had even coordinated a plan to overturn the election before election night with a draft speech that claimed voter fraud. These people knew Trump lost, but looked for a way to lie, cheat, and manipulate his way to victory. Remember, going after the mob with the RICO Act is up there with him being the 9/11 mayor. He makes this his identity, and the RICO Act will most likely lock him up. Here's Ron pretending he knows how to grill, only to be drowned out by the kind people of MAGA. What a time to be alive. The Georgia indictment zeroes in on how they targeted Fulton County poll worker Ruby Freeman as having overseen a massive voter fraud enterprise. Her name appears in the indictment 30 times. The indictment notes that members of the enterprise traveled from out of state to harass Freeman. Several of the named defendants repeatedly called Freeman, called her neighbors, and showed up at her home, telling her she needed protection and offering to help. Protection, like the mafia would offer, so the mafia wouldn't burn down your diner. The help they offered was that Trump and his allies would leave Freeman alone if she lied about election night and aligned her story with Giuliani and the others. For those new to the show, I'm glad you found me. Thank you. For a year, I've been reading a genuine page from Lauren Boebert's book. This really is a ton of fun. I only do it once a week, and it's been pretty wild. Let's get back to it. My manager not only runs this super classy dance place, but Craig has a very big list on the internet and keeps me busy part-time at his cash-only swimsuit car wash. Don't show up there with your polka dot bikini hoping to get it cleaned after a trip to the lake. No, this is where we wash cars wearing them. We don't wash swimsuits. I have a special kind of love for Craig. He's given me so many opportunities and confidences over the years, but right now, he's about to get a crusty blonde merkin in the face. I pulled it off my sharp chin, shouted, "Think fast!" and threw it like a frisbee, sending it zipping across the room, headed right for his head. Except he took a step to the side, and it soared right past him and landed on a candle. The fake down there hair burst into flames, burning harder than the cream hitting the cluster of Jason's upstairs-downstairs sores after the lost weekend at his No Questions old wood shack off the 36. In seconds, it had jumped to a curtain, and DJ Johnny D announced, "Call 911!" Although he didn't do it on the mic with his take-off-your-skirt-to-hair metal voice. He was panicked, and this caused quite a stir. It's not like the Donut Squad shows up to fight fires, but Craig did not want any additional heat here. We had an illegal gambling operation, a lot of health and safety things were broken, and Snake didn't check his pager every 2 minutes for pizza deliveries. Craig put his foot down. "Nobody's calling 911. Nobody." The flames grew higher by the second, And with the fire department off the table, Craig shouted, "Get some pitchers of water." Mr. Fong suddenly became incredibly nimble. The slow-moving mystery man with a cane leaped forward, bounding off a stool and over the bar in a blink. "I'll fill, you throw." Before I realized what was happening, he grabbed several pitchers in one hand and tossed them under the faucet. And as the water gushed below him, he reached for another. And numbed by the sudden surge of molten merkin smoke and curtain fire, I did not clue in that Mr. Fong had just grabbed the pitcher of old beer with my emotional support hamster treading the Coors in his Confederate flag cape with his 4 paws and a pepperoni pill kickstand. "Mountain Dew!" he shouted. "I found him!" Yup, after all our cheating, me and Jason with a Y were just accidentally duped by wannabe fireman Mr. Fong. It was like a fairy tale. If you've enjoyed this genuine page from Lauren Boebert's book, let me know in the comments and I'll see about reading another page sometime soon. But the greatest thing is that Ron has continued his snot wipe tour with a new one. Yeah, your baseball cap's missing something, Ron's booger. But I do love this little corner Ron found, tucked in by the bricks with a dozen people who were only there because he promised them the Kool-Aid guy was going to burst through. And what's this lady up to? What are you doing there lurking? Does she think this is the lineup for free snot? What's your take on her? Let me know in the comments. Trump will walk away from this stronger and you will all be begging for forgiveness. MAGA Tears. Make fun of bartender AOC and Creepy Joe. MAGA Tears. Oh, because Jason does country music, he has to live in the country? You are so stupid, man. MAGA Tears. You are going to be crying when Trump is back on office and he makes the White House a safe space from lib garbage. Evict all Democrats 2024. MAGA Tears. Trump's going to have to start working with Rudy to start figuring out ways to MacGyver ketchup and hair dye into lube. Thanks so much for watching. Help me out by joining us in the comments, sharing this video with a friend, and following me on social media. I am a one-man show here, from script to screen, the editing, even the graphics. Please throw me a tip with the easy PayPal link or hit that super thanks button, and be sure to check out my mugs that go great with those MAGA Tears. I am a stand-up comedian. I've played in 35 countries, and I've toured with Jim Jeffries for nearly 10 years. I have 3 albums and a brand new EP from my opening set on Jim's latest Netflix special. You can stream these on Spotify, Apple Music, or catch them on SiriusXM. Thanks for helping me make this show possible. Life's short. Be cool, be kind, take care.